So you are on that part of the shoreline where the water starts more progressively meeting the sand. Everything that you have known is behind you. Everything that you don't know is ahead of you on the horizon with this massive, intimidating ocean or sea, right? You don't even know if your boat will work. You don't even know if you really have a boat. But what you do know is that you're ready to part ways with everything that is behind you. There's this wild, unfamiliar space that I would argue often occurs when you're really changing your fucking life to a very large degree, right? Everything that you've known, this is why I use the analogy of everything being behind you while you're on the shoreline. The subtle, small bit of water that's making its way up to your feet is somewhat inviting, but it's also unknown and it's meeting the sand and it's just different, right? And the difference is probably what is the most challenging thing to sit with. We are creatures that really crave comfort and familiarity, known, right? And anything outside of that can be really challenging to adjust to, right? When it comes to meeting yourself and doing the things that you actually want to do, somewhat after awakening from an entire life of autopilot and unconscious behavior, and I would even say a majority of it was just exceedingly unhealthy, it can actually be challenging to walk away from all of that stuff, right? It really can. Um, to go out on the horizon, I was actually just watching a video um, the other day on social media where this guy was, I don't know, like 1,000 miles off of shore, and he was on a paddleboard that he had taken off of his sailboat. And this is apparently a guy who is watched by a lot of people on social media. And I just thought it was fascinating because I was like, wow, would I ever do that? That's very risky, right? I suppose everything in life is risky, right? It's risky to let go of everything you've known in your known, familiar, and comfortable reality, right? It's risky to turn around and kind of, or not even kind of, totally say goodbye to everything you've known for decades. Um, but it's also risky to stay there. It's risky to stay there and stay the same. It's risky to um, accept that as your life and to not go over the fence and see what else is out there, right? It's risky to go over the fence and see what else is out there. um, who was it that said it's all risky? I think it was Jim Rohn, I think. Yeah. It was Jim Rohn. It wasn't Bob Proctor. It was Jim Rohn. Fascinating guy. Excuse me, but like it really is all risky. It 100% is. Everything in life is risky. And the wild thing is that you don't always know what it is that you're doing, right? Fortunately, in many areas there are blueprints and roadmaps and everything and guidances and excuse me, this, that, and the other. But like if you're walking away from everything that you've known and you're walking in a direction that you've never been before, it's gonna be like infancy all over again. You probably don't remember when you stood up and took a couple steps for the first time, and maybe your parents cheered you on because they were so excited to watch your development. Um, I think one of the wildest things as an adult is to realize that it's now your turn to cheer you on. The reality that many people don't really genuinely care. It's not that they're apathetic or that they lack empathy. It's just that they're so focused on their own life. And this is why I talk about intrinsic self worth and intrinsic motivation and to just understand that you are your own best friend. You know, maybe the people that you thought were going to be there aren't really actually there, and that's okay. They don't need to be. You know, having the humbleness and the humility and the sorry, I'm drinking coffee and my body keeps wanting to burp all the fucking acidity of it. Um, everything that you probably thought life was, there's a good chance that all of that shit is just being questioned now and thrown under, I don't know, observation. Um, whatever we were raised with was likely thrown out the fucking window. It's wild too because I remember when I was in middle school, um, for some reason I was being taught about how to create a sheltered structure out of soaking bamboo and water, and here we are in 2024 with AI. It's like, well, who the fuck really gives a shit about figuring out how to create a sheltered structure with soaking bamboo and water? You're probably going to have a pocket-sized gadget in the next 10 years that 3D prints you a a sheltered structure in in 30 fucking minutes, you know, like that's going to be the future of traveling and camping. This, you know, pocket-sized 3D printer that creates anything and everything you want to, you know, like how is this relevant to what I've been talking about here? Well, quite honestly, um I really think that we're in an era now that everything that we previously thought is being thrown into question now, and that's just like a fascinating way to. This is on par with a lot of the things that I talk about, but also somewhat out there, and I really appreciate my capacity to just expand and to explore topics that are fascinating to me. Um, going into adulthood for many people um, is somewhat like, or entirely like, infancy all over again. Especially when it comes to unlearning a lot of the bull fucking shit that we were taught growing up, because one, it was either irrelevant, or two, it was a fucking straight out lie, you know? And the world has changed from the way that it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago, right? All of these things that we were led to believe were important were actually not important at all. A majority of the things that we learned in school we don't even fucking use. Um, and that's just the reality of it, right? AI is here. Meanwhile, we were trained for a world without AI, you know? Um, if you actually do the work on yourself, you will heal and you will grow, right? And this saying goodbye to the shore and everything that you've known and going into the unknown, it's fucking weird. But it's cool and you can embrace it and you can realize that it's like, wow, like there's this entire horizon to explore. We don't know anything. And even if we try to learn, we're going to be like in that very small percentage of anything at all, right? Um what I'm really trying to say in this video, because I understand that this video is probably a bit on, I don't know, it's like on the outskirts of what I usually talk about. Um you don't have to keep doing the same fucking thing that you've been doing for however long you've been doing it. You don't. And stepping into uncomfortable and unfamiliar territory, which is basically the unknown, which is basically everything that you've not been doing, the opposite of everything you've been doing. Um, it's not good or bad or right or wrong, it's just different. And you will enter a serious phase of infancy before you learn how to walk on that territory and that turf. And that's essentially what healing is. Like, healing is challenging as fuck. Healing is waking up and choosing to do something entirely different than what you previously did, right? And learning to walk in that territory as a fucking infant is so different because enmeshment is what was normal for you. It's what was comfortable and familiar to you. Connecting with individuals on a exceedingly superficial basis was normal. It was comfortable and familiar, right? And now you're like, after that blueprint has been ripped up and torn up and fucked up and damaged, this, that, and the other. Not even damaged. You're like looking at it and you're like, wow, this is. I don't want this. I mean, I don't really know how else to do this, but I don't want this. So I'm gonna try to. It's kind of like how the somewhat comparable to like the earliest expeditioners of anywhere. I'll take Hugh Glass. Great fucking movie, The Revenant. If you haven't seen it, I won't say anything about it because I fucking hate it when people spoil movies for me. But like, take any expeditioner, right? Like Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, right? Okay, this is all known. Let's go over there and see what it's like over there. Let's go over there and see what it's like over there, right? It's basically the equivalent of saying goodbye to everything on the fucking shoreline behind you while staring out on the horizon, looking at this massive, intimidating ocean of a fucking universe of a fucking ocean. I hope that made sense. And being like, all right, well, let's do this, right? That's essentially what I'm talking about. Stepping outside of everything that you've known and getting into this territory that is different, that is uncomfortable, that is unfamiliar, and all the while, like everything that you learn as you go further into that abyss, if you want to call it, right, you start to learn things about everything that was behind you that you didn't previously see, right? You didn't know what enmeshment was until you stepped outside of it, right? You didn't know what codependency was until you stepped outside of it and learned about, um, individuals that are independent but also have a healthy sense of interdependence, right? You probably aren't going to fully know what something is until you are like, I'll leave you with this because I think that this is super fucking helpful. You're saying goodbye to the shoreline and everything that you've known behind you, right? And you're getting ready and you're like getting out on this like flotation device and you're heading out on the horizon with this massive intimidating sea, and you're hoping that you're not about to see the fucking Loch Ness monster explode out of the fucking water and ruin your fucking day because you don't know what's out there, right? But then as you start to venture out there, you turn around and you see what was behind you in a way that you didn't previously see it. And you might even be like, oh my God. Right? And then, I don't know, maybe it's a shitstorm of a shit show that's about to unfold as you're leaving, right? And all of this fear that was initially there starts to get cleared up by, wow, well, at least I'm not about to be a part of that. I mean, I don't know what the fuck's out there, but I'm not about to be a part of that. That's essentially what healing is like. Healing, doing the work, growing, evolution, individual evolution, becoming your own individual, becoming your own person, I mean, I don't know how extreme this gets. I don't know, which is kind of black or white thinking. I don't know how, like, severe and real this gets. I don't know if this is like becoming an island type thing. I don't really buy into that. Um, we're social creatures. We need each other. But, like, at the same time, you probably won't know fully what something is until you actually like part ways with it and like look at it from afar and like, holy fucking shit, that was a massive beast, you know? You don't know until you go. That's it.